Ladies and gentlemen, we've all been there. Someone says something that cuts deep, pushes our buttons, or crosses the line, and our first instinct to snap back, to defend, to prove our point. But here's the truth. When you react, you hand them the power. Real strength isn't in clapping back. It's in cutting them off quietly, cleanly, without giving them the show they want. You ever notice how some people live off of reactions? They throw out a comment, a jab, or a look, and then they just wait for you to take the bait. They want to see you jump. They want to see you defend yourself. And the second you do, they've got exactly what they came for: control. But here's the thing. Silence is not weakness. It's not shutting down. It's not being passive. Silence is a statement. It's saying, I hear you, but you don't get access to my energy anymore. It's a power move because it removes the very thing that person is looking for. Your reaction. Think about the last time someone said something hurtful to you. Maybe it was at work, maybe at home, maybe even from someone you thought was a friend. The words came out sharp and right in that moment. Your body wanted to fight back. Heart rate picks up. Your mouth wants to move faster than your brain, and you feel like if you don't say something, they've won. But that's not true. The win isn't in talking back. The win is in not giving them the performance they're auditioning for. Silence doesn't mean you're ignoring the issue. It means you're choosing how to handle it. And when you choose silence, you're saying, this conversation is not worth me. This battle is not worth me. You're drawing a line without even picking up a marker. Here's the beauty of silence. It makes the other person uncomfortable. People who thrive on stirring things up want noise. They want conflict. They want chaos. They want the back and forth. They want you to validate their behavior by participating in it. But when you don't react, when you give them nothing, the silence hangs heavy. They have to sit with their own words, their own actions, and often their own insecurity. I'll tell you what silence does. It flips the script because suddenly they're the only one talking. They're the only one pushing. They're the only one showing their hand. And you're calm, collected, untouchable. That silence is louder than anything you could have said. Now, I'm not saying silence is easy. No, silence takes practice. It takes discipline. It takes reminding yourself. I don't have to attend every argument I'm invited to. Every time you feel that urge to clap back, pause, take a breath, remind yourself that silence is an option. And more often than not, it's the stronger option. Let's be clear though, silence doesn't mean you're bottling things up or avoiding tough conversations. It's about knowing when speaking is productive and when it's pointless. There's a difference between communicating and reacting. Communication moves things forward. Reaction just keeps you stuck in the cycle. Silence breaks the cycle. Think of silence like walking away from a fire instead of throwing gasoline on it. If you don't give it oxygen, the flames die down on their own, and that's what people don't expect. They expect you to get heated, to match their energy, to make it messy. But silence starves that fire. And here's the truth. You don't owe everyone access to your voice. You don't owe everyone an explanation, a defense, or even a goodbye. Sometimes the strongest boundary you can set is quiet distance. You cut the cord, you cut the noise, you cut the tie without making a sound. So the next time someone tries to bait you, remember this. Silence is not you losing. Silence is you refusing to play. It's you keeping your dignity, your peace, and your power. And in a world full of people shouting over each other, the person who doesn't need to raise their voice, that's the one who stands out. Because silence, when used with intention, speaks louder than any words ever could. When you cut someone off silently, you're not just shutting them out. You're protecting your peace. And peace, let me tell you, is priceless. It's not something you can buy. It's not something someone else can hand you. Peace is something you guard. And every time you react to the wrong people, you hand them the keys to it. You know what's funny? The people who try to drag you into conflict are never the ones who are paying the cost. They're not the ones losing sleep at night. They're not the ones carrying around that heavy feeling in their chest all day. It's you. You're the one left unsettled, drained, and distracted. And for what? For somebody who probably won't even remember what they said tomorrow. Protecting your peace means making a choice. Do I want to wrestle in the mud with someone who thrives on chaos? Or do I want to stay clean and keep walking forward? Because here's the truth. You can't win a fight that was never meant to be fair. Some people argue not to solve anything, but to pull you down where they are. And the only way not to lose is not to play. And this is where cutting them off silently is so powerful. Because when you react, you hand over your calm, you trade your stability for a few seconds of relief, and then you're left empty afterward. But when you stay quiet, when you step back, when you disengage, you're putting your peace first. You're saying, I'm not trading what I value most for what you want least. I think we underestimate how much peace really matters. Peace is clarity. Peace is focus. Peace is the ability to look someone in the eye and know, I'm not disturbed by you. You don't have that kind of power here. Peace lets you move through life lighter because you're not carrying the weight of everyone else's negativity. Here's the trap, though. We confuse protecting our peace with being selfish. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's not selfish to say, I don't have the energy for this conversation. It's not selfish to walk away. That's not selfish. That's survival. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Protecting your peace isn't about ignoring people. It's about valuing yourself enough to know who's worth engaging with and who isn't. And when you cut them off silently, you give yourself space to breathe. That space is powerful because in that space, you find perspective. You realize that most of the battles you were tempted to fight weren't even about you. They were about someone else's insecurity, someone else's unhappiness, someone else's need for control. And the moment you see that clearly, you realize, why would I let their storm drown out my calm? Protecting your peace doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks as simple as not replying to a text, not defending yourself against gossip, not stepping into an argument that's designed to go nowhere. You don't slam the door, you just stop opening it. And that quiet decision keeps your peace intact. The best part over time, people learn when they see that you don't bite, that you don't react, that you don't give them the fight they came for. They stop knocking. They move on to someone else who will. And you're left in peace, because peace is not about avoiding problems. It's about not letting other people's problems become your prison. Let me put it this way. Every time you choose silence, every time you choose to walk away, every time you choose not to give someone your energy, you're making a deposit into your peace account. And when life gets hard, when real challenges show up, you'll need that account full. Because if you spend it all on petty arguments, there won't be much left for the battles that actually matter. So protect your peace like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. And never let someone who didn't build it come in and tear it down. There's this misconception that setting boundaries has to be loud, dramatic, or confrontational, like you've got to make an announcement, have the last word, or draw a hard line in the sand in front of everybody. But the truth is, the strongest boundaries don't come with speeches or fireworks. They're quiet, they're simple, they're consistent. Cutting someone off silently is one of the clearest boundaries you can ever set, because it's not about convincing the other person to respect it. It's about you respecting it yourself. You're not asking for their permission. You're not waiting for them to agree with you. You're deciding this is where the line is, and I'm not stepping over it. That's the mistake so many of us make. We think a boundary has to be explained in detail, defended, or justified. But here's the reality. People who truly respect you don't need the explanation. And people who don't respect you, no amount of explanation will change them. So why waste your breath? When you cut someone off silently, you're avoiding the trap of turning your boundary into a debate, because the moment you start debating it, you've already lost some ground. You've given them room to argue, negotiate, or guilt you out of it. But when you choose silence, you take away their platform. You're not saying, here's why I can't deal with you anymore. You're saying, this is no longer up for discussion. Boundaries don't have to be harsh to be firm. You don't have to slam a door, shout, or make a scene. Sometimes it's as simple as stepping back, limiting access, or refusing to engage. And people might not even notice it first. They'll keep trying, keep testing, keep pushing. But your consistency, your quiet refusal to bend, that's what communicates the boundary louder than any words. And here's the thing, boundaries aren't about them. They're about you. They're not punishments. They're protection. They're not weapons. They're shields. When you cut someone off silently, you're not trying to hurt them. You're protecting yourself. You're protecting your peace, your time, your mental health. People often think silence means weakness or avoidance, or that you're not strong enough to confront the issue. But silence, when it comes to boundaries, is actually the strongest position you can take, because it shows you don't need validation. You don't need their agreement, and you don't need to perform for them. You just act. And that action, quiet, steady, firm, speaks volumes. And yes, people will test it. That's what happens with boundaries. The first time you set one, some will try to cross it just to see if you mean it. But when you hold steady, when you don't explain, when you don't justify, when you simply remain silent and consistent, they learn, they see that this boundary isn't negotiable. And over time, they stop testing it. It's almost like training. You're training people how to treat you, not by telling them what the rules are, but by showing them through your actions. And that's the power of a boundary without drama. It removes the fight. It removes the argument. It removes the performance. What's left is clarity. And let's be honest, life is already messy enough. We don't need more drama. We don't need more scenes. We don't need more energy wasted on trying to convince people who don't care to understand. We need clean, quiet, strong boundaries that let us move forward without dragging all that noise with us. Cutting them off silently is one of the purest forms of that, because it's not about proving a point. It's about protecting a principle. It's about saying my boundary is valid because I said it and that's enough. So when you feel that urge to argue, to explain, to lay it all out so the other person finally gets it, pause. Ask yourself, do they really need to get it? Or do I just need to hold my line? Because 9 times out of 10, holding your line will say everything that needs to be said. Boundaries without drama are the ones that people who thrive on conflict survive on reaction. They throw something out, an insult, a dig, a rumor, not because they're curious what you think, but because they're waiting for you to light up. That's the fuel, and that's the oxygen their fire needs. And the truth is, the more you react, the hotter that fire burns. Think about it like this. Imagine somebody sets a small fire in front of you. It's not much, just a few sparks. But then you walk over with a can of gasoline, your words, your anger, your frustration, and you dump it right on top. Now suddenly, that little fire has turned into an inferno. Who built it? They started it? Sure, but you fed it. You made it bigger by giving them exactly what they were hoping for. That's why silence, distant, and disengagement are so powerful. When you don't react, you starve the fire. You cut off the oxygen. And what happens to a flame without oxygen? It suffocates. It burns out on its own. Now, here's the part that gets tricky. The people who start these fires, they expect a reaction. They want it. And when they don't get it, they'll often push harder, louder, sharper, just to see if they can break through. That's the test. They'll say, if I can just get you to respond, then I still have you. And this is where discipline comes in. This is where you remind yourself, if I feed this, I lose. If I starve this, I win. And it's not about winning against them. It's about winning over yourself. Because the real battle is never with the other person. It's with your own impulse to jump in, to clap back, to prove something. The fire is tempting because it pulls you in, but every time you resist it, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than the urge. I'll be real with you. It feels weird at first. It feels incomplete not to reply. It feels uncomfortable not to defend yourself. It feels unnatural to let a comment just hang there unanswered. But that discomfort fades, and in its place, you find peace, because what you're really doing is training yourself to stay calm in chaos. And that calm, that's power. You've probably seen this play out, but someone tries to stir things up in a group, and one person refuses to engage. And the longer that silence goes on, the more awkward it gets for the one trying to start the fire. They look smaller, not bigger. They lose credibility. They lose momentum. Because conflict without a partner can't survive. And you start to notice something else too. People who are watching from the sidelines, they notice who stays calm. They notice who doesn't get dragged down. And over time, that earns respect. Not because you had the best comeback, but because you didn't need one. The hardest part, though, is remembering that starving the fire doesn't mean the other person will admit defeat. They won't suddenly say, wow, you're right, I was wrong. Most of the time, they'll just fizzle out and move on. And that's exactly the point. You're not waiting for their validation. You're choosing your own peace. The fire metaphor works both ways, because when you stop feeding their fire, you get to keep your own flame alive. Your focus, your energy, your stability. You stop wasting fuel on battles that don't matter, and you save it for the things that do. You can't control how someone else acts, but you can control whether or not you give them the reaction they're looking for. And here's the part worth remembering. Starving the fire doesn't make you weak. It makes you untouchable, because no matter how loud they get, no matter how hard they push, they can't make you hand over your peace. That's a choice only you can make. And when you stop choosing them, you start choosing you. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their chaos, picture that little fire in front of you. And then picture yourself holding the match, holding the gas can, holding the oxygen. You get to decide, do I make this bigger or do I let it die? Because sometimes the strongest move you can make is to do nothing at all. Fires burn out when you stop feeding them. Power is not in how fast you can respond. Power is not in how sharp your words can cut. Real power is in restraint. It's in self-control. It's in being able to look at someone who's trying to drag you down and choosing intentionally not to go with them. That doesn't mean you don't feel the urge. Of course you do. You're human. You feel the heat rise. You feel the words sitting on the edge of your tongue ready to fire back. But self-control says, I don't have to give in to that. I don't have to match you. I don't have to dance to your song. And that choice, that pause, that strength. Think about the people you admire most. They're not the ones who explode at every provocation. They're not the ones who lose their cool whenever they're tested. The people we respect are the ones who can stay grounded even when everything around them is shaking. Because control in the middle of chaos is what separates strong from fragile. Self-control doesn't mean you're silent forever. It doesn't mean you never stand up for yourself. It means you know the difference between when your words build something and when your words just feed noise, and when the situation is nothing but noise. Self-control lets you walk away without guilt. I'll tell you why this matters. Because every reaction you give away is a piece of you. It's your energy, your peace, your credibility, your focus. And if you're not careful, you'll spend it all on the wrong people in the wrong places. Self-control is how you protect that. It's how you decide. I don't have to fight every battle. I don't have to prove every point. I don't have to show up for every argument. And here's the paradox. The person who reacts the least actually has the most power, because the loudest person in the room isn't the strongest. The calmest one is the one who can absorb the hit, take the pause, and respond with clarity instead of chaos. That's the one everyone pays attention to, not because they shouted the best comeback, but because they didn't need one. But I get it. It's hard. Self-control doesn't always feel like strength in the moment. Sometimes it feels like losing. It feels like letting someone else get away with something. It feels like biting your tongue when everything in you wants to unleash it. And that's where most people give in. They can't stand that feeling. But the truth is, that feeling is where growth happens. That's the space where you're building the muscle of restraint. And the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. And here's something I've learned. Self-control doesn't just protect your peace, it also protects your reputation. Because people are always watching how you handle conflict. They might not remember the details of the argument, but they'll remember how you carried yourself. They'll remember if you stayed calm. They'll remember if you refused to be dragged down. And that memory sticks a lot longer than whatever words were exchanged in the heat of the moment. When you choose self-control, you're choosing the long game. You're choosing your dignity over their drama. You're choosing your future over their chaos. You're choosing to invest in who you're becoming instead of reacting to who they're being. And that's what makes it powerful. So the next time someone tries to pull you in, remember this strength isn't measured in how loud you get. It's measured in how little you let them move you. And when you master that, when you can walk away with your head high and your peace intact, you realize that they never had the power you did. Real strength is not in what you say. Real strength is in what you choose not to say. So here's what it all comes down to. Not reacting doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Cutting people off silently doesn't mean you're running away. It means you're protecting your peace. Boundaries don't need to be dramatic to be real. Fires die when you stop feeding them. And the greatest power you'll ever hold is the power to control yourself. You don't owe anyone your energy, your explanation, or your reaction. What you owe is to yourself, to stay calm, to stay clear, and to walk away when the noise doesn't deserve your voice. Because the truth is, silence isn't empty. It's full of strength. It's full of peace. And sometimes the loudest thing you can possibly say is nothing.